This story comes from the depths of Reddit to chill your bones. Names and places have been changed to protect the people involved. My grandmother had a rule. One rule she drilled into me from the time I was old enough to understand words. She'd sit me on her lap in that old rocking chair, the one that creaked like a ship in a storm, and she'd look at me with those milky gray eyes and say, "Normal knocks sound normal." She'd let that sit for a moment. Then she'd lean in close enough that I could smell the lavender soap she always used, and she'd whisper, "But if you ever hear a knock that echoes through the house, don't answer it." I never understood what she meant. Not really. I was a kid. Knocking was knocking. You heard it, you opened the door. That was the whole point of a door, right? I understand now. My grandmother, we called her Nana Bell, grew up in a farmhouse outside of Lancaster, Pennsylvania in the early 1940s, back when houses still had outhouses in some places. Back when silence at night was real silence. No hum of electricity, no distant traffic, no refrigerator clicking on and off. Just dark. And whatever lived inside the dark. Nana Bell had a sister, 2 years older. Her name was Rosemary. By all accounts, Rosemary was a sweet girl, quiet, liked to press wildflowers in between the pages of hymnals, the kind of kid who'd rescue a spider from a bathtub instead of squishing it. One night in October of 1943, Rosemary woke the whole house screaming. Nana Bell told me the story exactly once, and she was shaking the whole time. She said Rosemary had bolted out of their shared bedroom, nightgown twisted around her knees, and she was pointing back down the hallway, and she kept saying the same thing over and over. Something knocked. Something knocked on the wall. And it echoed. It echoed, Mama. It echoed through the whole house. Their mother, my great-grandmother, told Rosemary it was a bad dream, told her to go back to bed, said old houses make noises. But Rosemary wouldn't go back to that room. She slept in the kitchen chair that night, and every night after, sitting upright with her back against the wall and her eyes wide open. 3 weeks later, Rosemary walked out the front door during a thunderstorm and never came back. They found her shoes on the porch, neatly placed side by side, toes pointing toward the door, like she'd planned to come back inside, like she'd only stepped out for a moment. But there were scratches on the inside of the front door, deep ones, gouged into the wood, like something had been trying to get in, or like something had been trying to keep her from opening it. They never found Rosemary. The search went on for weeks. Dogs, neighbors, the sheriff. Nothing. She was 7 years old. Nana Bell carried that story her entire life. She carried the guilt of being the younger sister who slept through whatever happened that night. And she carried the rule. Normal knocks sound normal. But if you ever hear a knock that echoes through the house, don't answer it. Now, I grew up in a split-level house in suburban Ohio. 1990s kid. Had a GameCube, watched too much Cartoon Network, the whole deal. Nothing about my life was haunted. Nothing about my life was scary. My biggest fear was pop quizzes and algebra. Nana Bell lived with us in the downstairs bedroom, the one that used to be a den. She was in her 70s by then, and she was slowing down, needed help getting around. But her mind was sharp, sharper than my mom's, honestly. She'd still remind me, every few months out of nowhere. We'd be watching Wheel of Fortune and she'd just turn to me and say it.
The echoing knocks, sweetie. Don't ever answer. And I'd smile and nod and say, I know, Nana. And I'd change the channel because the commercials were on. Nana Bell passed away on a Tuesday in March. I was 15.
She went in her sleep, which was the only mercy the world seemed to offer that family. Her door was closed that morning when my mom went to check on her. And on the door, and my mom showed me this before she repainted it, there were 3 faint marks. Not scratches, impressions, like someone had pressed their knuckles against the wood. 3 knocks, but they hadn't woken anyone up. I didn't think about Nana Bell's rule for almost a year. Grief does that. It doesn't erase things, but it stacks other things on top of them. School, friends, homework, crushes, all the noise of being 16. The rule got buried. But the house got quieter after she died. I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean the actual ambient sound of the house changed. My mom noticed it too, but she's not the kind of person who pays attention to things like that. She thought it was just that we had one less person watching television, one less person humming in the kitchen. I knew it was more than that. Because sometimes at night, lying in my bed on the 2nd floor, I could feel the house listening. It was a Saturday in October. I remember because my mom was at a work conference in Columbus, overnight. She'd never left me alone overnight before, but I was 16, responsible, had a phone. She called me at 9 to say goodnight. I told her I was fine. I was not fine. I don't know why. Nothing had happened. But I had this feeling, this heavy, crawling feeling, like the house had been waiting for this, like it knew she was gone. I was in my bedroom, door closed, lights on, watching something on my laptop. I think it was a comedy, something stupid. I needed the noise. And then I heard it. 3 knocks. But they weren't normal knocks. That's the only way I can describe it. If you've ever knocked on a door, you know what it sounds like. It's a sharp, clean sound. Wood against wood. Quick. Present. This was not that. These knocks were slow, deliberate, and they were dull. Like the sound was coming from far away, but also from everywhere at once. Like the house itself was the drum, and something enormous had struck it. I felt them in the floorboards. I felt them in the window glass. I felt them in my spine. I stopped breathing. My hand froze on my laptop. The comedy was still playing, someone laughing on strain, but I couldn't hear it anymore. All I could hear was this ringing silence, like the knocks had left a hole in the air. And then Nana Bell's voice, clear as if she were sitting right next to me. Don't answer it. My heart was slamming against my ribs. I pulled the blanket up to my chin like that would protect me, like I was 6 years old again. And I waited. Nothing happened. The house settled. The laptop played its show. I sat there for 20 minutes without moving. And then, like an idiot, like a complete and total idiot, I told myself it was the furnace. Old pipes, the house settling, all the rational explanations that sound so smart in daylight and so useless in the dark. I got up. I walked downstairs. Every step creaked. The hallway was dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I don't know why. Maybe because the switch was at the bottom of the stairs and I'd have to walk past the front door first. The front door had a window, a narrow rectangle of glass beside it, and outside the porch light was on,
Motion activated, and it was on, which meant something had triggered it. I looked. There was something standing on the porch. It was tall, impossibly tall. It had to hunch to fit under the overhang, and it was thin. Not thin like a person, thin like a shadow that someone had pulled and stretched. Its edges weren't solid. They moved, shifted, like heat rising off asphalt, but it was 40 degrees outside. And it had no face. I don't mean it was blank. I mean it was... the space where a face should have been was wrong. It kept trying to be a face. Features would surface, the suggestion of eyes, a mouth, cheekbones, and then they'd dissolve, like something was pressing against a membrane from the other side. I stood there. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I just stared. And it tilted its head, slowly, like a dog hearing a strange sound. The motion was too smooth, too deliberate, like it was studying me through the glass. Then it raised one long hand, and the fingers were wrong too. Too many joints, too many knuckles, and it pressed its palm flat against the door. 3 knocks. From inside my perspective this time, I saw its knuckles connect with the wood, but the sound came from everywhere, from behind me, from above me, from below me. The house vibrated with it, like a bell that had been struck. The echoing knocks. I ran. I don't remember deciding to run. I was at the door, and then I was at the top of the stairs, and I was in my bedroom with the door locked and the light on, and I was shaking so badly my teeth were clicking together. I called my mom. She didn't answer. I called her again. Voicemail. I called my friend Derek. He picked up on the second ring, and I was trying to talk, but nothing was coming out right, and he kept saying, "Dude, what? What's wrong?" And all I could manage was, "There's something at the door." Derek told me to call the cops. I did. They came. They checked the porch, the yard, the perimeter. Nothing. Of course, nothing. No footprints, no disturbance. The porch light was off by then. The officer asked me if I'd been drinking. I was 16. I told him no. He looked at me like he didn't believe me, wrote something in his little notepad, and left. I didn't sleep that night, and I didn't tell my mom what I'd seen. What would I have said? 2 weeks passed. I started to doubt myself, the way you do. The rational mind is powerful, and mine was working overtime. I was stressed. I was grieving. I was a teenager alone in a house for the first time. It could have been a hallucination, sleep deprivation, a weird dream mixed with a waking moment. I wanted to believe that. I really, really wanted to believe that. Then it happened again. This time it was a school night, a Wednesday. My mom was home, but she was in the bathtub. She takes these long baths with her door locked and music playing. Might as well have been in another state. I was in my bedroom closet looking for a hoodie. The closet was small, just a sliding door, no light, barely enough room for my clothes and a shelf of board games. 3 knocks. From inside the closet. Not from outside the closet door, from inside, from the wall behind me. I was in the closet, and something was knocking on the other side of the wall. Except my closet backed up to nothing. There was no room on the other side, just the exterior wall of the house. And the sound, again, it echoed. It filled the closet, filled my ears, filled my chest. I could feel it in my teeth, in the bones of my jaw. I shoved the sliding door so hard it jumped off its track. I stumbled out into my room, and my room was empty. The window was dark. The house was quiet. My mom's music was playing faintly from down the hall. But I looked back at the closet, and in the dark gap where the door had been dislodged, I swear on everything, something moved. I slept with the lights on for a week. Here's the thing that made it worse. It only happened when I was alone. My mom could be in the next room, but if she was asleep or in the shower or distracted, the knocks would come. Always 3, always slow, always echoing. And they moved. The front door, the closet, then the bathroom mirror. The bathroom mirror. I was brushing my teeth one night. My mom was working late, and I heard 3 knocks from behind the glass, not on the wall behind the mirror itself, like something was inside the wall, inside the mirror, pressing outward. And the glass vibrated. I watched it. 3 ripples spreading outward from the center, like a stone dropped in still water. My toothbrush fell out of my hand. Toothpaste dripped down my chin. I stood there staring at my own terrified reflection, and behind my reflection, just for a second, there was another face. It was smiling. I didn't go in that bathroom again. I started using the one downstairs. My mom thought I was being weird. She asked if something was wrong. I told her the upstairs shower had bad water pressure. I was lying. Everything was wrong. But how do you tell your mother that your dead grandmother's warning was coming true? That the thing Nana Bell warned you about, the thing that took her sister, was knocking on your walls? I tried to record it. Of course I did. I was 16. I had a phone with a voice memo app and a desperate need to prove I wasn't losing my mind. I set my phone on my desk one night, hit record, and sat in my chair and waited. My mom was asleep. The house was quiet. The knocks came at 11:47, 3 of them, from the bedroom wall to my left near the window. The echoing was so intense that the water in my glass rippled. I grabbed the phone, stopped the recording, played it back. Nothing. Not silence, not static. Nothing. The recording was 5 minutes of ambient noise, the hum of my computer, the distant refrigerator. And then the recording simply stopped. The timestamps were wrong. It showed it had recorded for 23 minutes. I was sitting there for no more than 7. 16 minutes of recording with no sound, no signal, no data, like something had swallowed the time. I tried 4 more times after that, different phones, a laptop. Once I borrowed Derek's old digital recorder. Every single time the same thing. The recording would capture ambient noise, then nothing. Then the file would be corrupted or missing time. Whatever this thing was, it didn't want to be captured. The last time the knocks came was different. It was late November. I was in the living room. My mom had gone to bed early. She was fighting a cold. The house was dark except for the glow of the television, which I'd muted because I couldn't concentrate on anything anymore. I was just sitting there, waiting. And I realized I'd been waiting for weeks, waiting for the next knock, living in a state of permanent dread. I hadn't slept through the night in a month. My grades were slipping. Derek thought I was on drugs. My mom had started giving me these worried looks. I was done being afraid. So when the knocks came, 3 of them, from the wall behind the couch, echoing through the floor and the ceiling and the air itself, I didn't run.
I sat still. I didn't look at the door. I didn't look at the wall. I stared straight ahead at the muted television, and I gripped the armrest until my knuckles went white. And I did not answer. The knocks came again, 3 more, louder. The television flickered. The glass of water on the coffee table cracked, a clean split right down the middle, water spilling across the wood. And still I didn't answer. Then a voice. It came from everywhere and nowhere, from behind the walls, from inside the ceiling, from right next to my ear. Good. My whole body went cold, not scared cold, temperature cold, like someone had dropped the room 10 degrees in a second. You're learning. The voice was thin, stretched, like a recording being played at the wrong speed, and it sounded, and this is the part that still keeps me up at night. It sounded almost proud. That means I don't have to wait anymore. The television turned off. The house went completely dark. Not just lights off dark, the kind of dark where you can't see your own hands in front of your face. Absolute. Total. Something brushed against my cheek. Light. Delicate. Like a spider web or a fingertip. And then the darkness lifted. The television came back on. The ambient hum of the house returned. Everything was normal. Except the crack in the water glass. That was real. That was 3 years ago. The knocks stopped after that night. Completely. I kept waiting for them, every night, every quiet moment. But they never came. Whatever it was, it got what it wanted. Not an answer, not a door opened. Something else. I don't know what. I still think about Nana Belle, about Rosemary, about the shoes on the porch, toes pointing toward the door, about the scratches on the inside of the wood. I think about what Nana Belle said. Don't answer it. And I wonder if that was enough. If not answering was enough. Or if the real rule was something she never told me. Something she didn't know. Because I didn't answer. I followed the rule. And it said I was learning. It said it didn't have to wait anymore. So what was it waiting for? And where is it now? Sometimes, late at night, when the house is very quiet, I press my hand against the wall beside my bed, just to feel the solidity of it, just to remind myself that a wall is a wall. But every now and then, not often, not predictable, I feel something press back. 3 times. If this story kept you up tonight, take a moment to subscribe and tap that bell icon so you never miss another dive into the dark. We've got plenty more where this came from. This has been a sleepy deep dive. Thank you for listening. And remember, the night is only empty until it isn't.